Okay, good evening. I call this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors to order on Thursday, January 29th at 6:30 p.m. And we have a quorum. Do we have anyone online? Okay. All right, first on the agenda is community comments. Community comments are an opportunity for our community to share their ideas and opinions with the board. Input is welcome and valued. It is our duty to keep it safe and respectful for everyone, students, staff, and our community. This is not a time for discussion or debate. Letters to the board are always welcome, and each of us read the input. Requests for information should be made as outlined in policy KBA-AR. Do we have Carrie? Is it Bowie? Yeah, welcome, Carrie. Is there a green light at the bottom? Again, welcome, Carrie. You will have up to 3 minutes to speak. If you would state your name, city of residence, and group, if any, and then the clock will begin.
Okay. I'm Carrie Bowie, Milwaukee resident. I'm a mother of a freshman and a junior here at Milwaukee High School, and I'm also part of the Eco School Network for the last decade or so here in our district. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this evening. I saw no one came last couple weeks ago, so I thought we better get up here again. It's been fun watching my kids grow, and my role has shifted a little bit. And I think what you guys do here is so important, and the systems that you're shaping it matters to them more than ever as growing young adults. And as the world around us becomes more unpredictable, socially, economically, environmentally, I'm grateful for you all and the people in this district who stay focused on what truly lasts, which is shaping these young people. It's not always fun, but it is a long-term investment that research has shown does pays off in the long run from Head Start on through. About a year ago, I came to you with the assertion that we should add the word sustainability to our district's core values. When we look at our core values, sustainability is not an add-on, it's a through line, and it makes each of those values durable. So I'm nervous. Sorry. Equity means every student has the opportunity to thrive, yet we know environmental impacts are not distributed equally. Our most vulnerable students are most affected by heat, smoke, poor air quality, rising cost of living. Sustainability is how we protect equity over time. Relationships depend, okay, that's the second one, right? Equity relationships, they depend on stability. Our strains, stabilization of our destabilization through climate disruption, sustainability strengthens stability, allowing relationships to flourish. Integrity means aligning our actions with what we know to be true. The science is clear. The world our students are entering will be shaped by climate realities. Acting on that knowledge is an expression of integrity. Empowerment. Our schools prepare students with the skills and confidence to navigate their future. Sustainability education does exactly that. It asks us, sorry, I skipped a line. I'm sorry. It's funny to read. I like to talk to people. But the civic engagement that our children learn through sustainability education empowers them for that leadership role. And care. The value at the heart of this district is incomplete if it only applies to the present moment. True care extends into the future, and it asks us to steward the conditions that allow our students and their children to thrive. I want to reflect briefly on comments we heard 2 weeks ago. A teacher from Kennedy Elementary sat where I am, and she said, we don't need more checklists, more training, we need time. And I don't want to overhaul curriculum, but I do want to add that word sustainability to our core values.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. I think I'll read it next time.
You did fine.
Shaky. Thank you.
Do you have Eric Zimmerman here? All right. Welcome, Eric and team. Thank you. So we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. State your name, city of residence, and group, and then the clock will begin.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eric Zimmerman. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Oregon Army National Guard, just down the way at Camp Withicum, which is, as you know, in the heart of the North Clackamas School District catchment area. I'm also a product of North Clackamas School District. I sat on this board as a student rep when Ron Naso was the superintendent. Ben Schellenberg is the first person to give me a public speaking opportunity. I hope that I live up to what he taught me. So thank you to the rest of the board members. Madam Superintendent, it is great to be back at home. The reason I wanted to tell you who I am and where I came from is I've got 2 Portland High School graduates next to me. I've got a graduate from the Astoria area next to me, and I'm a Clackamas graduate myself. And the National Guard is a homegrown entity. And it's important for us to make sure that that message gets out to all of our school districts, in particular in the Portland metro area, and in particular for us as residents of North Clackamas. This is an area I feel that we have not done enough to introduce ourselves to all of the high schools in your district, to not spend enough time showing you the opportunities that we provide, not just students who are leaving high school, but even students who have been out of high school for a while. When I think about our unit down at Camp Withicum, we are one of the largest National Guard units in the Portland area. We have over 600 positions there. And while we call ourselves an engineer battalion, I've got a variety of military specialties, probably about 20 of them. I've got nurses, I've got EMS workers, I've got men and women who are satellite and data specialists who have 6-figure credentials in the civilian world. I've got heavy equipment operators. I've got explosive technicians, law enforcement. And that's just a little bit of an introduction of the types of jobs that are available to a person who wants to raise their right hand and be part of the Oregon Army National Guard. And we're unique. And because we're homegrown, we're not, the military is often thought of a thing as somewhere else, or a people who are somewhere else on big bases. Oregon's one of the few states without a major active duty base, but your National Guard is filled in armories across the state, and you are home to one of the largest ones in Oregon. And so our members, for the grand majority, I've got some of my full-time team up here with me, and they're the team I rely on for all of the day-to-day, but most of our 600 members are part-timers just like I am. They do 2 days a month. They do a couple of weeks in the summer. They get benefits like GI bills, housing loans, school for college reimbursements. And so our main focus today is really to invite the administration. We're hoping for support to get this message out to all of the high schools, because we have an event on March 12th for all juniors and seniors in the district to attend an open house at Camp Withicum, to see the different types of jobs that we have available, to learn about the enlistment track if somebody is interested when they leave high school. And in the fall, we'll have a similar one for the officer track, where we've got full rides to 4-year universities and academies. So Madam Superintendent, to the board, that's our ask today. We hope that we can leave some of these with you. We'll be back in a month to re-advertise. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your service.
3 minutes per. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes public comments. So we will now move into our native land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the land on which we sit, in which we call the North Clackamas School District, rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and the Clackamas.
We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn
and work and be a community on this land.
and we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region.
We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation
that affected the indigenous and native families,
both past and present,
and that will affect those in the future.
And honor the resilience and revitalization of our indigenous and native communities.
We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Okay, board members, will you please stand, and Director Olson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up in the board packet, you'll find the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I call for a vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Okay, so we have 6-0. All right, next on the agenda is acceleration, retention, and tag report. And Dr. Dibley, I think you're up. No.
Good evening, board
Dibley
members.
and team, I mean.
Yes. I will sit from the wings this evening again, but I'm happy to introduce our team of professionals who are going to share some information about our policy and how we meet the differentiated needs, and share some information about retention, acceleration, and talented and gifted.
Yes.
Welcome. All's Tammy leading this?
Yes,
All right.
I am.
Great.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and for letting us share some information with you about how our talented educators use our high quality materials, supplemental tools, and research-based instructional practices to provide each student with learning experiences that challenge, engage, and prepare them for success in life, college, and career. I am proud to introduce the educators sitting with me today. Next to me is Kelly Rhea, the Associate Director of Elementary Programs. We have Rob Holloway, Associate Director of Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development. Miranda Otto, one of our building instructional coaches and our tag instructional coach. Chelsea Macieg, our elementary math instructional coach. Stephanie Van Epps, secondary language arts coach, and Luke Weinbreck, our secondary math coach. They're all going to help out today, go through some ways that we differentiate and use our curriculum and support teachers in making sure all of our students are supported. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of foundation. So the definitions of the topics that we're going to be addressing today are embedded in our board policies. So promotion is just the typical practice of a student moving from grade to grade. Acceleration is the practice of skipping a grade. That may be a single subject or a full grade in all subjects. Retention is a more technical way of saying that a student repeats a grade. And talented and gifted students show exceptionality in one or more areas. I'm going to use the acronym TAG moving forward. While the definitions are seemingly straightforward, because each child is beautifully unique, nothing is simple and straightforward when making these decisions. So with the exception of promotion, each of the processes takes into consideration a variety of factors and perspectives and is done with a team of educators and the families. Additionally, board policies provide schools with specific guidance to follow in regards to the steps that must be followed when considering students for acceleration, retention, and for tag identification.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, board. I'm going to get to talk to you a little bit about retention, what our policy looks like, and what the practice looks like for retention in our district. Our district policy is clear that promotion, or the typical moving forward with same age peers, is the expectation, and that retention is an exception, and it is not a routine practice. So our policy is really clear on how we go out of that typical process. Retention is allowable under our policy, but our guidance reflects the extensive research showing that retention is rarely effective in the long-term progress for a student. Decisions about retention are highly individualized and they're data informed. Often, a parent may come to a school to request a retention. And this is when a school team, a multidisciplinary school team, comes together with the family and reviews the situation that's going on for the student, with the principal being the final decision maker about whether or not retention occurs. We recognize the pressure that schools and families have when a student may be struggling academically and the pressure to do something. And our policy redirects the urgency towards high quality core instruction, strong MTSS systems, early intervention, targeted intervention, with research that shows that those strategies are far more effective in the long term for a student than retention is. We're also required to put an equity lens on retention decision making, as we know that disproportionately students who have disabilities, are students of color, students with special education, multilingual learners, and students experiencing poverty can be disproportionately impacted by practices like retention. So when we are looking at retention, we take into consideration the process and what our policy states. The process exists to ensure that decisions are thoughtful, team-based, non-punitive. This isn't a punishment by any means, and not an automatic response to a student's academic struggle. It allows teams to consider whether unique academic or developmental circumstances need to be considered, and that despite appropriate interventions, if extra time or remaining in a grade level, if that's warranted. The research is consistent and it's noted throughout our policy that there's no evidence that retention improves long-term academic outcomes. In fact, early retention is actually associated with social emotional challenges, disengagement, and there's a much higher likelihood that students may drop out of school in the long term. Retention is discouraged as a motivational strategy. We certainly do not believe, and we know that telling a student you might have to redo the grade is not going to help that student learn and improve and grow. It's going to be the actions of the educators, the data-based instructions that they are making, and the high-quality instruction that they are providing. For these reasons, when retention is considered, it must involve, and you've heard me repeat this multiple times, a multidisciplinary school team and collaboration with the family, close collaboration with the family, and a clear focus on instructional quality and long-term student success. I believe this is coming back to you.
It is. Thank you. So our acceleration policy describes 3 avenues for acceleration. We have our classroom-based single subject acceleration and grade level. Differentiated classroom instruction will meet the needs for most of our students. There's no question that planning instruction for diverse levels of learners is complex work. This is why we take our curriculum adoptions so seriously and make sure that teachers and specialists, both ELD and special educators, we make sure they're at the table to provide input. We want to make sure that our materials are very high quality and are the materials that will make sure that reach a variety of levels inside the classroom. Later on in the presentation, you're going to hear from our coaching experts more about how the materials that we've chosen provide multiple access points for students and how they support teachers to reach all learners through the professional development they provide and through the curriculum implementation process. The second option outlined in policy is the single subject acceleration. In this scenario, the student will advance in one subject area. So instead of having their literacy block with their third grade peers, they'll go to the fourth grade and have the literacy block with that class. For the grade level acceleration, they'll move from sixth grade into seventh grade. The policy outlines several criteria that must be considered. So it's very, very specific for both single subject and grade level acceleration, academic achievement, attendance, productivity, and maturity are all required under the policy. Academic achievement includes teacher observation, measures of academic performance and growth, as well as state assessment. The acceleration policy also outlines very specifically the consideration process. So in that, in the process, a school team convenes. It is required that not only pertinent educators are at the table, but also the parent or guardian and the student be at the table. They go through relevant information. They look at, like I said, the student achievement. They look at the records. It could be local assessments. They look at the state assessments and any other information gathered to really dig into what is the best outcome for the student. The team then determines what is the appropriate placement for the child, and if acceleration is recommended, they also look at what timeline is best for the student. So if it's at the semester, if it's, for instance, a secondary student, or if it's at a change in the elementary during one of their quarters. If it involves a change to a different school, it is required that a staff member from that receiving school be on the team. Once the team decides on a recommendation, it is actually the principal or a designee that makes the final decision. So it goes to them. If there's another school involved, both administrators must approve that decision. All right.
I'll move us into the tag section. The North Clackamas School District board policies closely mirror the Oregon administrative rules, requiring school districts to have a written plan of action for talented and gifted children, including a process for identification, description of services, and a means to appeal decisions. Every 3 years, the district updates, submits, and publicly posts our tag plan. We're currently updating the next plan, which is due for submission this June, and the plan outlines the district's identification of students who are talented and gifted using evidence-based practices, multiple modes of evidence with an emphasis on mitigating bias. Importantly, the identification process guides instructional planning and includes the documentation of the process. Services for students who are talented and gifted involves professional development on differentiating and modifying instruction to meet the needs of identified students, planned with input from parents and guardians. Accommodations of instruction to match the level and rate of students in reading and/or mathematics is documented through an individual classroom plan or ICP. If parents or guardians disagree with decisions related to tag eligibility or services, they have the right to appeal through policy KL. Next, Miranda Otto will provide more detail on the practices in North Clackamas.
They're like thank you to the table. Hi. So when we are, oh, let's see. That's okay. Okay. When we're talking about tag or talented gifted services, we're thinking about it two kind of big umbrella components. One of those is identification. When we're thinking about identification, we identify in two main categories. One is intellectually gifted, and the other is academically talented. As Rob mentioned, we utilize multiple pieces of evidence in order to identify tag students. We look at a myriad of assessment data. We also look at learning characteristics using the 6 gifted profiles. That's really important because it helps us identify students in a more equitable way. In addition to this school-based evidence, we also look for parent and guardian input because we really want to best understand students holistically when we're going through the process of identification. When we're making decisions about possible tag identification, we're looking for what we call a pattern or preponderance of evidence. So we're not making this based on a single data point. The other big umbrella is services. How do we serve students? In North Clackamas, we serve in 2 content areas. We serve in math and reading / language arts. So we implement something that's considered to be a service model. There can be a program model and a service model. North Clackamas implements a service model, which means that we focus on implementing our instructional services in the regular classroom, and those are delivered by the regular classroom teacher. That is opposed to having a special pull-out program or special pull-out class. This means that students are supported instructionally throughout their day instead of receiving services only when they're being pulled out. The instructional services that are provided to students are designed to meet their assessed rates and levels of learning. We're going to learn a little bit more about that in just a moment. While it's important to know what tag is, I think it's also important to know what tag is not. It's important to note that in North Clackamas, as I said earlier, it's not a pull-out program, but it's a continued service throughout the day. It's not a weekend opportunity or extra classwork at the same level or homework. That's not how we serve students. It's not a separate adopted curriculum that's only available for tag identified students. Finally, it's also really important to note that it's not something for students who look a certain way in our district or students who belong to a specific racial, linguistic, or socioeconomic status. It's for any student in our district who demonstrates the need for services based on a pattern or preponderance of evidence. Okay, so rate and level. When we're talking about rate and level of learning, the level of learning is the student's instructional level within the curriculum. This is the place where they will be successful, but they will also encounter new knowledge and skills, which they are not yet proficient. The rate of learning is how we measure the pace at which they are ready for the next step. When we're thinking about rate, we also need to remember that that can vary depending on the subject, the degree of interest, the level of difficulty of the material, and the learning style of the student. We often think of rate and level as 2 different entities, but really they work in tandem with one another. And so it's important that we're measuring those continuously through pre-assessments, daily classwork, and exit tickets. A few examples of what this means. A couple examples of what does it mean to meet a student's rate and level. That could be replacing standards that a student has already demonstrated proficiency with standards not yet proficient. That could be flexibly grouping students, using regularly collected data to make instructional shifts, students experiencing productive struggle, and then also really thinking about providing opportunities for students to work at DOK or depth of knowledge levels 2, 3, and 4. So they're really getting really deep opportunities to go very deep instruction and build that. A couple examples of what this would not be. It would not be students designed to be a helper if they finish early with classwork. It's not completing more extra work at the same level if they've already demonstrated proficiency. It's not sitting through instruction that they don't need based on data, and it's not completing practice problems for already proficient content. So one of the ways that we ensure that our TAG students' rate and level of learning is being supported is through using, Rob mentioned an ICP that stands for Individualized Classroom Plan. This is a document where teachers and parents or guardians are able to collaborate and discuss the options for meeting students' rate and level of learning. So the document highlights the assessments that help determine the students' rates and levels of learning, their individual learner characteristics, specific instructional modifications that will be implemented. It's reviewed annually, however, it is a living document. So that means that it can be revisited and updated at any time, as we know that students are fluid and we need to be flexible to meet their needs. There are different sections that target math and literacy, which you'll hear a little bit more about from our colleagues. So I'll turn it over to Chelsea.
Hello, I'm Chelsea Macieg. I'm an elementary math instructional coach, and I'm going to be presenting our tools and strategies that are available for both responsive math instruction as well as responsive literacy instruction within our instructional frameworks and aligned to our state standards. The image on the slide represents our lesson plan structure that follows a you do independently and with a partner in reference to the students, a we do together, and then an I do, referring to the teacher who provides purposeful modeling and a synthesis of ideas and strategies. Here are some more specific examples of opportunities to assess rate and level and differentiate within math. Within our lesson structure during the warm-up provides daily opportunities for students to reason about concepts using number sense, procedural fluency, and for teachers to assess multiple ways of thinking. The first example up there at the top is an example of a 5th grade warm-up. This is aligned to measurement conversions, powers of 10, and place value. And the second example is a 3rd grade warm-up aligned to patterns and multiplication. These types of problems provide opportunities for students to generalize patterns, to apply the pattern, or to extend a pattern and apply it to a new visual or expression. Daily, students engage in activities that provide them opportunities to classify and compare through number and picture sorts. They interpret strategies through worked examples, and they show their thinking through multiple models like the visual provided. We use the CRA model, thinking about how do we conceptualize our math understanding through concrete, representational, and abstract thinking. A few more examples of differentiation and extensions in math is our curriculum, Imagine IM, comes with centers. And with each center, there are stages. The stages are specifically designed to differentiate based on the depth of a concept and the student's individual rate of learning. On the slide, I provided a sequence of stages for one of the centers that students engage in. This center is called Compare, and it spans 1st through 5th grade. Each stage builds on a concept, and teachers can assign the stages digitally. They can provide the game boards that are provided in their center kits, or they can print boards for students to match their rate and level. In elementary, we also use Dreambox. Dreambox provides an adaptive experience that adjusts to a student's performance. It also has an assignment feature that can be used to specifically target a standard that requires higher level reasoning. Some assessment tools that we use in math. So educators assess a student's current rate and level through unit monitoring checklists, through conferring with students, daily cooldowns, section checkpoints, as well as analyzing their FastBridge and their Dreambox reports. Next, responsive reading instruction, tools and strategies for growth in literacy. We in elementary, the curriculum resources that we have are from phonics to reading, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, Fontes and Pinnell Writing Mini Lessons, as well as our North Clackamas standards-based writing unit projections. The image on the slide represents opportunities within our literacy framework to assess rate and level and differentiate based on student need. Here are some specific examples of opportunities to assess, rate, and level, and differentiate during literacy, during their literacy block and within a lesson. During responsive small groups, students are in flexible groups. I'm sorry, during responsive small group instruction, students are in flexible groups and they're engaged in text at their instructional level. There are opportunities to read independently, to read with a partner and in small groups, as well as opportunities to engage in higher level thinking, tasks such as interpreting, organizing, classifying, and comparing their thinking during the lesson. Within extensions, students can also participate in book clubs. Embedded in book clubs are more opportunities for students to think beyond a text to build deeper understanding of themes and diverse perspectives. Also, through interactive read-alouds, all students engage in listening comprehension. They engage in thinking within a text, beyond a text, and about a text. Questions and prompts are provided to allow for multiple entry points for students to connect and compare ideas, to synthesize and analyze ideas and hear diverse perspectives. Literacy instruction relies heavily on data-driven responsiveness to monitor and adjust the rate and level of instruction for each student. Educators assess a student's current rate and level through unit monitoring checklists, through conferring. We use rubrics, curriculum-based measures, as well as analyzing FastBridge and Lexia reports. All right, I'm going to hand it over to secondary, Luke and Stephanie.
Thank you. Like Chelsea said, my name is Luke. I'm the district secondary math coach. And for secondary, we'd like to start, thank you, Stephanie, teamwork. We'd like to start by looking at a unified core instructional model that will then expand to look more at in language arts and in math. This graphic represents our district commitment to our high five strategies and students making meaning with others and for themselves. Whether a student is analyzing a complex text in language arts or solving a non-routine math problem, the architecture of their learning experience is the same. In both subjects, we ensure every student starts with rigorous grade level material. The differentiation comes from within the instruction by utilizing our adopted instructional material. During core instruction, students are asked to interact with the curriculum through multiple modalities and through multiple cycles of instruction. The visual you'll see on the board illustrates this cycle and how each of the different parts work together. Hand over to Stephanie to talk about literacy.
So during math and literacy blocks and periods, we also have this adaptive portion, which is at least 20 minutes. This is for targeted and flexible instruction and opportunities for students based on collecting data, so that all students have access to grade level content at their own rate and level. So it's similar to the core visual that Luke shared, but in this adaptive model, we look at the I do as teacher modeling in small groups or one-on-one. This could be modeling of core or more, like an extension. There's also the we do, which is a teacher-led flexible small group, which is guided instruction, getting students to more of that gradual release of responsibility, which could be core plus more. We have you do together, which could be students working collaboratively together, whether they're doing book clubs or doing a research project of extension of core or more. And then we have a you do alone, which is independent learning, where students might work on Lexia Power Up in language arts or Dreambox in math. Those include skill builders, practice sets. There's also online components, or they may not be on Lexia or Dreambox, but maybe doing an extension of core or more. So every math and language arts class has that 20-minute time period built in. For language arts, this is the core curriculum. The adopted curriculum is Oregon Writing Project and Inquiry by Design. At the high school level, we also have pre-AP, AP classes, and then IB courses at Rex Putnam. This curriculum supports all students through differentiation, and it has built-in extension opportunities. So I've pulled 3 examples for us to look at. This Oregon Writing Project unit has an enrichment unit built right in it, which is a search and study where students can choose a research topic that comes up in their reading. The differentiation is also embedded in that there are literature circles. So students get to choose to work with other students and pick
a novel at their interest and readiness level. So it's already built in. The pre-AP example is an extension opportunity where students look back at a perspective that they had before reading, and then they go back and note any shifts in perspective after reading, as well as identify the rhetorical moves the author made to make that shift. And then last, in the inquiry by design example, this is based off of a rubric. So if a teacher is looking at development in student writing, if a student got a 4, they may give a lesson on varying the claim, evidence, and warrant structure, all the way to the 1 about providing more stronger evidence. So it's differentiated there. And then looking forward into high school, expanding horizons through advanced pathways, college credit opportunities, and interest-based pathways. Students have a lot of choices here, from AP classes to IB classes, and then they have interest-based pathways and electives from women in lit to college writing to advanced journalism. So there are lots of different ways that they can choose to explore interests and depths. The curriculum that is used at the middle school level during some of that adaptive learning time is Lexia Power Up, and it has a 3-pronged approach to meeting students where they are. So there's independent student-driven learning. There are 3 strands that students work on based in the science of reading, which is word study, grammar, and comprehension. But they also are placed in zones and levels so that they could be working on advanced work, and it gets deeper with complexity each level that they move up. There's also teacher-led instruction that teachers can pull for either one-on-one or small group support. So here's an example of a lesson on Oh Captain, My Captain, where the students and the teacher are looking at author's tone. And then the third part of Lexia Power Up is this progress monitoring, where students are working independently and the teacher is getting daily data based on what they're doing so that they can make instructional choices. And last, as the district coach, I support teachers in a lot of ways, making sure that we are meeting students where they are. That's through monthly district content meetings, where we look at curriculum, we look at assessments, we talk about best practices, teacher leader meetings, learning walks where we can share best practices with each other across buildings even, supporting during PLCs. That bottom picture there is a group of about 25 middle school teachers who have joined our adolescent literacy cohort, where we look at the science of learning and literacy and best practices around that. Working on common assessments and PDSA cycles so that the teachers can be researchers in what they're doing, and then one-on-one or group coaching.
So I'm going to talk about math next. So our focus is ensuring core instruction is robust enough to meet each of our learners by using our adopted curriculum, which is Amplified Desmos Math. Our curriculum provides teachers the resources and guidance embedded directly for our core and adaptive instruction. To do this, we pair the Amplified Desmos Math curriculum with our work with Teachers Development Group, otherwise known as TDG, to utilize existing guidance within our curriculum paired with TDG's catalytic teaching actions and teaching routines. Desmos provides the rigorous grade level content and pedagogical moves to support all students, whereas our ongoing professional learning around catalytic teaching actions and routines provides teachers with specific actions that they can use to teach it effectively. It provides them with a direct roadmap for prompts to use when students get stuck or when they breeze through a task, which removes the guesswork from our differentiation. If we look at the visual on the screen, on the left, we have a typical lesson structure with warm-up, 2 activities, and then the synthesis at the end. On the right, we have the embedded support from our curriculum that specifically calls out differentiation at each level of the lesson, where students can have support, they can get some strengthen, or they can stretch their learning. So for our students, that means that differentiation happens through the curriculum and through depth. We support developing learners by using our habits of interaction, ensuring that they talk through and make sense of math with their peers. Simultaneously, we're extending our learners by pushing them into the habits of mind, asking them not only to just solve the problem, but to generalize and justify their reasoning. This ensures that every student is challenged within the core content. So while core instruction is for everyone, we also know that we need systems to target individual needs. And we approach this in two different ways. The first way is with Dreambox. This is our adaptive software. It meets every student exactly where they are, whether they need to build some foundational skills or extend their learning, allowing for personal growth at their own individual rate and level. Second, we use targeted small group instruction driven by our data. For students who need extra support, we pull specific mini lessons directly from our Amplify curriculum. These allow for the classroom teacher or a learning specialist to intervene immediately and close any gaps and ensure grade level access. Simultaneously, for students who are ready for more, we offer extension. These aren't about giving kids more work. They are about deepening the content knowledge, challenging them to apply what they know to more complex and novel ways. The structure allows for every student to get exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. I'd also like to talk about how we're serving students in high school. This shows where our rigorous core instruction leads. Because we're investing in high quality differentiated teaching throughout a student's math trajectory, we're opening up options for all students to experience success. Historically, college level math was reserved for a few select students who were tracked into it. Now, because of our core instruction is built around deep conceptual understanding for all students, we've opened those gates. Upon successfully completing core instruction, students are eligible to enroll directly into 100 level math courses. This means our high schoolers aren't just finishing math requirements, they're taking on genuine college level coursework, potentially earning transferable credits even before they graduate. This is the ultimate goal of our instructional framework. Effective core instruction in the early grades creates equitable access and opportunities for advancement. So we've discussed the curriculum and the instructional framework. My role as an instructional coach is to bring these things together to help translate into student achievement. Adopting a new curriculum and rigorous teaching habits is complex work. My job is to provide job-embedded support to our teachers so they aren't doing it alone. This looks like co-planning a lesson to identify catalytic teaching actions, to model how to run a small group using our mini lessons, or to analyze student data to plan for extensions. All secondary math teachers also engage in Math Studio, where we explore, refine, and implement research-based pedagogical practices. Both the pictures are taken from a studio that was run this year in our classrooms. So this isn't about fixing a problem, it's about building a sustainable, effective system. By working collectively with teachers, we ensure that whether a student is in classroom A or classroom B, they're receiving the same high quality, differentiated instruction. My role ensures that our investment in these materials turns into tangible results for each student. I'm going to pass it over to Tammy to finish up.
So to close, I just wanted to share a few last pieces of information. Firstly, retention is most often done at the request of the parent and happens very infrequently. Additionally, grade and single subject acceleration is also most often initiated by parents and has been approved recently and historically. Also, I wanted to reiterate how strongly we rely and adhere to K-12 to our board policy for these important decisions. We appreciate your time and are happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Dr. Kemp?
I don't want to make the assumption, but for kids that are going from a middle school to a high school, I assume does a district, if it's one subject, does the district provide transportation, or how does that work with if the school's a little bit further away?
Yeah, the parents need to provide the
Okay,
transportation.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Dr. Walker?
Thank you.
Doctor?
Did you say Dr. Walker? No.
You wish.
I wish. Actually, yeah.
I know I didn't. I missed out on the doctors of my own.
I really appreciated this presentation. I know it took a lot of hands and a lot of folks to pull it all together, but I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of it. I feel like I got a good foundation for how our district thinks about plans for and has policy around these areas. And I really do appreciate all the thought behind it. I'm also super interested in sort of some of the KPIs. Like, what are you tracking? What are the kinds of statistics that matter in this space? How many students are in tag? Does that change year over year? How many students and teachers are doing, adding to the ICBs? How many of those exist? Those are sorts of things. And then that drill down layer, I'm also interested in school differences and cultural differences and ethnic differences and male, female. And I would love to hear more about our performance in this space too. So maybe that's like a future dream of mine to hear some of that laid out and brought back to the board.
Well, and Miranda, do you want to, because I appreciate the work that both Miranda and I'm not going to put her on the spot for specific numbers.
No, not tonight,
but
for sure.
I will say that, especially in regards to race and ethnicity, both Miranda and Rob watch that very, very closely. Because if we are not matching our representation of our whole district, we want to look at that, right? So if there are inherent biases in our practices, if we are not looking at whole students in a way that we should, I will tell you right now that there is not one set way to examine and look for exceptionalities in students. And so I just appreciate the deep work that Miranda and Rob do. What I love about the coaches is that they are not siloed. They look for expertise both in Oregon and nationally. So they are so connected to their craft that, and really they bring that to the teachers here. Teachers don't have time to look at all the research. They don't have time to seek out and go different places. And so that's where we rely on them for. So they are constantly bringing these evolved practices to make sure that we are making sure that we are representative in these important categories. So we can absolutely, though. I just love that about them. They make sure that we're doing the right thing by kids.
Director, and if I may add, I think you said about the ICPs and who has them and who doesn't. Every student that is identified for talented and gifted has an ICP. So that's part of the written plan that we are responsible for ensuring that we're working with parents and that, addresses that rate and level. So that is part of our responsibility. That is how we address and ensure that we're documenting that.
Super. I'm curious about the size and scope of these numbers and how they're benchmarked also. So maybe in a future return visit, we can get some of that clarity, and so we can really be saying we're head and shoulders above the rest of our educational spaces that are doing this work. And I know North Clackamas does it so well. So let's see the evidence.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
I just have one about this last slide. With it saying retention is most often at the request of parent, it happens very infrequently, and then grade and single subject acceleration processes are also most often initiated by parents. How then do you balance that with inequities, with bias? I mean, without bias, if it's most often by parents, how do you get past that?
Yeah, it is a good question.
While you think, you want me to?
Go ahead.
One of the things that I think we heavily rely on is the fact that, as our coaches so eloquently shared, is that the extensions and the quality of our instruction is embedded each and every day in the instruction that goes across our district. I think that you have heard us say time and time again that we rely on the vision that it doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter what teacher you get, what school you go to, what zip code you live in, you should have the same quality instruction. So oftentimes, and I think one of our coaches said that oftentimes there is a demographic that requests for the acceleration to happen. But because of the pathways, because of the differentiation that happens instructional in our classes, we trust and we're confident that those extensions are happening. And obviously, if something, and it's just, I think it's like most often it's happening by parents. I think any educator would see that if somebody or if a student is outperforming and we are not keeping up with their rate and level, that we would be having that conversation at parent-teacher conferences. We would be bringing them in. We would be saying, hey, this is what's happening. But again, the actual numbers are really small because they're anomalies, and they're getting the instruction and they're getting the extensions and they're getting all of the robust opportunities within the daily instruction.
Yeah, I honestly, as I was thinking, in my administrative career, you know, I hold my ethics very closely. And if I thought a student, if I thought I wasn't doing right by a student, I would recommend them for acceleration. And including ones who were accelerated. So there were times I did not disagree, or I did not agree with the decisions made, and yet felt that I was true to my ethics by not recommending them. I'll say that.
Hi, thank you again for this presentation. It was very comprehensive, very clear, and I appreciate all of you having a voice in sharing the information, especially as a new board member, just learning about the responsive instruction, the secondary core and adaptive is very meaningful and very helpful. I kind of in line a little bit with the wondering about data for students. I just have some wonderings about our advanced pathway and college credit opportunities in reading and math, and what percentage of students who are taking advantage of that are identified talented and gifted. What percentage might have been accelerated at some point? Are they going on to those higher levels of for example, math or English language arts, if they were accelerated at a certain level? And then overall, just what our kind of our demographic breakdown of students who are taking advantage of those opportunities are across.
I love that question. Because of our pathways now in middle school, we have opened up opportunities and increased our access to advanced coursework for more students, right? So we will have more students in advanced math in their fourth year. When I walk in classes now, unlike when I did 9 years ago as principal of Clackamas, the demographic is representative of the student body. So it's very, very proud of that. In all honesty, there isn't a more advanced coursework, right? We have calculus is the advanced. So if you get to calculus in your sophomore year, you got to calculus in your sophomore year. So yes, you can take stats as well, and you can double up. And you, of course, can go on to other opportunities further. But you know, we are so proud that more students are getting more opportunities to take higher level math through the system we have created, because they're getting such a strong foundation, both in middle school and then in the 9th grade and in the 10th grade, because they are not being tracked into these classes that were not preparing them for this level of rigor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. So for, because I'm not clear on tag identification, is it and or math and reading?
So it can be math and or reading. So a student can be identified as academically talented in math only, academically talented reading only, or academically talented in math and reading. And for students who are identified as intellectually gifted, we serve them in both math and reading content areas.
Great. That's what I thought, but I want to clarify. And then if I am identified as TAG, that doesn't necessarily, I might be getting enough rigor through that curriculum that I'm not ready to accelerate to the next grade. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So it's in a way, TAG plus. I mean, the TAG curriculum is not enough for me. I need to move a grade or maybe move 2 grades for that subject matter. Is that correct?
Can you restate that? I'm sorry.
Like the TAG curriculum isn't enough. I would need to go up a grade in a math, for instance, if I wasn't getting enough. I'm identified as TAG. I'm blowing that out of the water. That's when we would look at acceleration.
Yes.
I don't know.
That's where if you are meeting the standards, if all of those pieces are in place, then in the curriculum, you're meeting all the curriculum aspects, then that's when, oftentimes that's when the parent, the teacher, the team would say, hey, Tori's killing it. And we need to, I would like for that consideration for single subject acceleration. Then we would go ahead and look at the policy and go through the procedure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tammy and team.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Wichita Center renovation projects update. Teresa Nev Webster, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us, directors. I am excited to come and bring you an update on our Wichita Facilities program of renovation. I am joined by several members of the team who are going to be supporting in the conversation. We have David Cruz, our Executive Director of Operations. I am happy to introduce you to Mike Ware, who is sitting next to me. He's our new Director of Facilities. Mike is finishing his second week with the district, so he will not be presenting tonight, but I did want to make sure that you saw face to the name. So we're happy to have Mike here, and we're happy to have Leif Palmer here, who is a Facilities Supervisor, who will also be supporting us in our conversation. So as we look at our tenants and we think about our district strategic plan, when we think about operations, we really are focusing on our resources and services. And when we're thinking about the Wichita Center, really thinking about that long-term investment into the facility itself, how we use it and how we're using our funds to ensure that we're maintaining it appropriately. So I'm going to kind of remind folks around the history of the Wichita Center, the projects that we have, and our phases. So the Wichita Family Center was constructed in 1941, and it went through a few different renovations in 1946, 1949, and 1992. So it's been quite a while since there's been any work in the building. So the district reacquired the Wichita Family Center in 2024. And at that point, we did a series of assessments and audits to ensure that we had a clarity around what was in need of repair. Some were very obvious. The roof was literally falling into the hallway in certain parts of the building. But there were other areas, infrastructure-wise, that we needed to evaluate as well. So once we did that evaluation, we were able to understand the need, and then we broke the renovation program into 3 phases. And so tonight, Leif will walk us through phase 1, what occurred in 2025, last summer. And then David will walk us through what's going to happen in 2026, this coming summer, and in phase 3 of 2027. So I'll hand it over to Leif.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. So as you can see on these pictures, the one to the left is the new security system panel that's on at the Wichita Center. We also added motion detectors in a lot of the rooms that didn't have them, just upgraded the security system. The middle picture is in the back of Wichita, and you can see a nice, pretty new roof on it. Teresa was not joking when she said it was falling down in spots. There were eaves that you could see straight through the rafters. There were spots where it didn't have sheathing on it, no ring shank nails, very unsafe roof. So got a brand new, pretty roof on it. Also, you can see the beams on the under the covered area in the back. Those were upgraded. They were delaminating and rotting, so the whole back covered area was replaced. And so those seismic upgrades were all completed. It was a busy summer. All the programs had to move to Linwood Elementary, and it was a big project. On the left there, you can see brand new interior painting was also done in conjunction with the roof being replaced through the hallways. And then in the middle picture, you can see two boilers there. The one on the right, the more lighter colored one with the blue burner in front, that is the brand new boiler. So the other boiler to the left was the original, not the original, but it's over 30 years old. Which the average life expectancy of a boiler is 15 to 30, and we pushed everything we could to get out of it. So now the new boiler will be running, and the backup, it'll be for redundancy if it fails. And our HVAC techs still keep a good, keep that up and running really nice. To the right is a brand new front desk, so that's where people will be greeted. And I think David will
go ahead. You can just hit the button.
Okay.
Not too many slides, not too much. So looking forward, this coming summer for the phase 2 projects, you'll see our generator replacement. The generator is well beyond its life cycle and is, I'd say, more than on borrowed time. Life can probably attest to that.
Correct, and there's a lot of power out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've had recently quite a few. Additionally, asphalt repairs, Leif's picture of our beautiful new roof, you might have noticed in the forefront of that picture, the condition of the facility there, with the exception of the west parking lot, the east side along Wichita Avenue and on the back side of the building are not in good shape. They're quite honestly safety hazards. So we'll be addressing that this summer. Electrical upgrades to the facility primarily to support the need for a replacement or upgrade of our HVAC system, which we'll get to in just a second. But then also upgrading of our locks and hardware, make sure that we're meeting current code expectations and modernizing some things that, again, are costing us a lot of time and resource to work with, quite honestly, hardware that's just worn out. Let's go ahead and hit number 3. So looking forward another year and a half out, the HVAC upgrade that I mentioned, so we'll be looking at that. Carpet replacement throughout the facility. The carpets, like everything else in the facility, the roof, everything gets worn and it's well past its life cycle, but we're limping along until we can get to that point. Leif mentioned that last summer the hallways were all painted and freshened up. We'll be doing the same for the internal rooms, so the office spaces, the conference rooms, the rooms where, for instance, the food pantry are supporting our community to brighten that up, refresh it, give it a more inviting look. We will also in 2027 be doing a furniture review. So a lot of the furniture, literally desks, furniture in that facility have either come from our surplus where they didn't fit or didn't work in any other facilities anymore. We held on to repurposed, but we'll be looking at that and figuring out what that looks like and what we may have for needs moving forward.
And with that, we will take any questions that you have around renovation program.
Board, any questions? All right. But you make eye contact first, all right?
I'm just curious, you know, a lot of times with these remodels and renovations, you run into unforeseen conditions and extra expenses. And I know there was contingency in the budget. Have you had any real unexpected fines or?
I think the roof project became much more complex than it had originally been thought. We were very lucky last year that the phase one was funded through the American Rescue Plan Act. So we had over $1 million there, and we also had additional funding so that even with issues that did come up there, we had enough funding to cover all of the work in phase one. And so I think for phase two, I would anticipate when we start to look at our electrical, we have to go into the walls, and when you go into walls, things happen. So we are thinking about contingencies there as well. I think I will name that under Leif's leadership, we have been very conservative in the work that we've been doing, and we have been really doing wonderful work and saving money when we needed to, but also making sure we're putting the right systems in place so that we can continue building on it versus fixing things that have been derelict for a few decades.
No, that's great. I mean, that's such a great resource for the whole district and everybody in the community. That's really good to see all these improvements finally being done and the maintenance taken care of that should have been long before. Thank you.
You had a great question. I was curious about the contingency as well because it is such an old building, but appreciate you handling that. It's been a while since we've heard a little bit of an update about Wichita Center. What was the total investment, capital investment that was targeted for all of the phases together?
So it is a moving target because things are moving from terms of how much things cost, but we have funded this out by phases. So the first phase, we had a budget of 1.5 million, which we spent. Our second phase, which is this summer, we are actually being funded through the community development grant from the county. So we earned $300,000 grant through that application. And we also, as part of our application as the district level, agreed to also add in $100,000. So we have a $400,000 budget for this summer, which is, I think, a healthy budget for the work that we're going to be doing. And then the third phase, we have operational, in our operational budgets, we have for carpet replacement, furniture renewal, and painting. That will be within our operational budgets. When we look at that HVAC upgrades, that will be part of the superintendent's bond advisory recommendation that we'll be bringing to the board in March.
I've heard about that, yeah. Thank you for that update. I really also just want to say thank you for that refresh of the front entry reception desk. I think that says a lot symbolically also to every single person who enters that space that they're deserving of this quality and this level and this look and this feel and this comfort and not at a dinged reception desk.
Yeah.
I remember a tour that I did take through there and you could literally see the shingles that had, fallen, the space where the shingles had come from over that reception desk. So,
Yeah.
Wow, how wonderful to see fresh spaces, dignified spaces. And when you do that furniture review, throw it all out if you can and make something
Yeah,
really.
I mean, yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. We really are being intentional because we want to make sure that our community feel welcomed and feel
Yeah.
that they are valued when they walk in the door. So we appreciate
Thanks
that.
for doing that for them.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Tiffany Shireman, Michelle Riddell, guiding principles during labor negotiations. It's a discussion and an action item.
All righty. Good evening, Vice Chair, Directors. Tonight, we are bringing forward for you principles for board action, as you said, Vice Chair, for guiding principles for labor negotiations. Following board interest in developing guiding principles, a staff team worked together to craft a draft set of principles for your consideration. We used models from Hillsborough School District, Beaverton School District, Gresham Barlow School District. And then really this draft was informed by our own strategic plan and core values woven throughout. You'll see that there's a draft there in your packet. A team from our district labor negotiations a small team from within our negotiations team, including Director Kemp and Vice Chair McVeigh, reviewed this draft together with us. We have that for you for your consideration tonight.
Yep. So board policy BBA makes it clear that the board directs the collective bargaining process to establish labor contracts. So our strategic plan calls on us to recruit and retain exceptional employees, cultivate collaboration, and ensure financial stewardship. So these guiding principles really formalize the board's values and expectations as we approach our collective bargaining this spring with North Clackamas Education Association for our licensed educators, and next spring for with our Oregon School Employee Association for our classified. So the draft guiding principles, which are on page 129 and 130 of your board packet, include really 8 core principles, including students first, financial responsibility and sustainability, support for employees, data-informed decision-making, equity and inclusion, integrity of the bargaining process, a focus on long-term stability, and transparency with the community. So really adopting these principles would provide several benefits, including unified language, so creating a consistent framework that all stakeholders can reference and understand, public transparency, so publishing our commitment to open, values-driven decision-making on our website, and finally, clear direction. So really providing our negotiating team with explicit guidance on what principles to center during discussions at the bargaining table. So we're here to answer any questions and are seeking board action on this resolution tonight.
Is there any questions? Is there a motion to adopt the guiding principles?
I motion to adopt the guiding principles.
Motion's been first recommended. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. It's properly been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nay? Oh, 6-0, it passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, she didn't leave me with any poetry.
You have a song?
Yeah. All right. This meeting is adjourned at 7:48.